Hello and welcome back. I'm Stickmasterluke. It's time to move forward, so here's where we are. The game has pretty much started, right? We've just thrown them into the game and we've given them their tools. So the game's gonna start, but when is it gonna end? We gotta make sure we're waiting for that. So that's what we're going over now. We're gonna wait for them, and so because we're waiting for things, we're actually gonna do another loop, a while true do loop. So while true do wait end. Okay. Cool. This wait should actually be 1 second long, and we're gonna count down the timer using this loop. So we gotta make sure we gotta set a timer. So our local timer. Whoops. We're actually going to name this variable local timer. So local timer, like this. And it's a little bit confusing, but we're going to also be calling something else a timer later. Okay, so local timer is equal to round time. So if you remember at the top of the script, we've defined round time as 300 seconds. 60 times 5 is 300 seconds. So 300. Local timer is equal to that. While local timer is greater than 0. So, you know how in our previous loops we've used break to get out? Instead, we're not going to be calling break. Just if the timer is, it only continues, it only keeps looping while local timer is greater than 0. And then every time it goes through here, we're going to want to lower. Actually, let's do everything under the wait one. Local timer. Oops, you do not want this blue local here. But our local timer is equal to local timer minus 1. So every second we're going to be subtracting 1. So every time it goes through here, it's going to subtract 1 from this until it's less than 0. And then it's going to, after it's less than 0, then it continues on. Okay, so that was one of our conditions, was the timer expires. So we did that one. We're gonna want to check to make sure that there are no, either there's no Bloxxer or there's only one player left. Okay, so to do this, we're gonna have to figure out which contestants are still active in the game. So active contestants equals an empty table. And I am not putting a local in front of this because we could use this table later for sorting the results and figuring out who gets points and stuff like that. So by not adding a local here, that means that the entire script can read it instead of just this while true loop. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna have to fill this up with our active contestants. Also, let's add another value to see if we found a Bloxxer. Okay, so we're gonna now look through all the players, and then after we look through all the players, we're gonna see how many contestants we have and if we found a Bloxxer or not. Okay, so for underscore players in pairs. This in pairs is going to want to be our contestants that we had. So if you remember when we were looking for contestants, we also did the same thing as we didn't put a local here, so we could use our contestants down here later. And we're using them right now. So we're going to want to look through the contestants that we had started with in the game. Make sure that the player exists, so if player, then. And let's make sure, let's see, we're going to want their character, so local character, player, character. So dot character is actually a property of player. It's a little bit confusing when kind of checking to see if it exists, but because it's a property, but the character still exists under workspace. So if character, and actually that's good. If there's a character, then how do we make sure that these people didn't get bloxed? When we put them in the game, let's actually give them something, and then down here we can, because if if I'm just a bystander in the game starts, and I get blocked. I'm just a bystander, and I get blocked by the Bloxxer. And this game continues going, because that was an important role. So I'm in the lobby. How do we know that I'm not active in the game anymore? Like, I got taken out of the game because I got blocks. That's what we wanna make sure that these contestants are still active. And so we're gonna put a tag inside of characters when they start. And then if I get blocked, that tag won't be there when I respawn. When I respawn, it won't have that tag that we made up here. So we're gonna make a tag when we put them in the map. And if they get blocked, they won't have that tag when they respawn. Okay, so what do we want to do for this tag? It's very simple. It just could be any kind of thing inside the character. So local match tag equals instance .new string value. And we're going to want to set the name of this so that we know what we're looking for. And the parent equal to the player dot character. Okay, so when we spawn the characters, this is back here at the spawn function when we're teleporting the players. We also put a match tag into the characters just so that we know they're part of the match. Okay, that's done. Now we can use that to see if they're still active in game, because if they don't have it, that means that they've been blocked and they've been removed from the game. Okay, so we're gonna look for it. To look for it, it's just like looking for a humanoid. So local match tag equals player. Actually, we have the character find first child. You want to make sure you're using find first child instead of wait for child, because if you use wait for child, it'll wait, like your entire script will wait until that exists in there, and that may never exist if it doesn't exist. So use find first child tag. Okay. And let's also grab the humanoid. Okay, if match tag and humanoid dot-elf greater than 0, then. So if we found a match tag, oops, this local should actually be an if. Okay, if we found a match tag and we found a humanoid, just to make sure that, I don't know, and after we make sure the humanoid has health, so this determines that they're alive and they're still in the game. If they're alive and still in the game, I'd consider them an active player, and so we're going to put them into our active contestants. So table.insert. So we're just throwing this thing, table.insert is very similar to table.remove. In the fact that it just adds something to a list. Active contestants player. Okay, so we're adding the player to the list of active contestants. That's done. And also we're going to want to see if they are the Mad Bloxxer, just so that we know if the Mad Bloxxer is still alive after we iterate through all the players. So if player is equal to the Bloxxer, then Bloxxer active equals true. Okay, so after we go through all of the contestants, we now have this table filled up with all of the active ones, and we have this either set to true or false, depending if we found an active player or not, or an active Bloxxer or not. Okay, now what we're going to do is if number of active contestants is less than or equal to 1, or we didn't find a Bloxxer, then we break a loop. So there are 3 conditions jumping out of this loop. So this loop will continue going and continue counting down by 1 until either the timer is less than 0. If the timer is ever less than 0, then this will break. and so then it will continue. It'll say the game ended. Or if there are less contestants than one, if there are less than or equal to one contestant. So if there's only one player left, it will end. Or if we cannot find the Bloxxer. So if the Bloxxer himself got caught, then that's the end of the match. So it also breaks out. These two can if either of these two happen, then it breaks out. Okay, where are we now? We're at sorting the game results. Okay. How do we do this? This isn't that hard. It's actually fairly simple. So we're gonna sort the results, and we're gonna want to set a value depending on what we find. So his value is gonna be game results equals players win. So by default, the players win, and we're gonna check a few conditions to see if it was actually the Bloxxer that wins, or if the Bloxxer is captured or whatever. Okay, so if the Bloxxer is active, or Bloxxer active, remember this value that we had set up here. The Bloxxer is active, then. So if the Bloxxer is not active, then this is still set to the players winning. Okay, so if the Bloxxer is active, and if number of contestants is greater than 2, so that means one of these is a Bloxxer. If there's only 2 contestants left, then one is a Bloxxer, and one is someone else. And so if when the game ends, the Bloxxer is left and someone else is left, that means that the Bloxxer did not complete his goal. His goal is to Blox everybody, and he didn't get everybody. So that means that he did not make it. So the Bloxxer failed, and it timed out. So that's where we get this Bloxxer failed. So when the Bloxxer failed, that's set. And by default, that's also players win. If they're greater than or equal to 2 players left, then the Bloxxer did not win. And then if not, so if there's only 1 player left or less, then game result equals Bloxxer win. There. Okay, so by doing that, we've just figured out what's going on. Okay, so let's see. Here we'd put this. Successful Bloxxer is successful. So the Bloxxer won at that point. And if there is no Bloxxer, then that means we captured him. He's gone. He's under control, and the players have won by default. Players win. So the only case where we so what happens is we set the game result to players win, and we go through here, and if the Bloxxer is active, and if it is not contestants greater than 2, then the Bloxxer wins. That means it's only the Bloxxer left. That means then we set this to Bloxxer wins. Otherwise, players win. Okay, so that's kind of sorting the results and finding out in whether the players win or the Bloxxers win, or the Bloxxer wins. Okay, after we do that, we're going to want to teleport any existing players. So if the game times out and there's like 4 people left, or maybe there's like 10 people in the game and the sheriff gets the Bloxxer right off the bat, we got to teleport all the players back to the lobby. Everybody back. Okay. We also got to remove the sheriff's tool, or if it's a Bloxxer left, we got to remove his sword so that he doesn't start sword slashing everybody in the lobby. That's not too hard. Okay. So we gotta find all the lobby spawns. We gotta make a list of all the lobby spawns. Local lobby equals, actually lobby spawns equals, and this is gonna be a new list, a new table. And we're gonna have to find all the spawns, all the locations that we're gonna teleport people to. So these are actual spawn locations in the lobby. These are spawn location objects. So when a player enters the game, or a player gets blocked or falls off the map, they will respawn on one of these locations. And so also when the game ends, we're going to want to teleport them back to one of these same locations. So luckily, they're all named spawn location, and they're inside of our lobby. So we can just use those. We already have spawn locations set up. So we're going to populate this list with the spawn locations of the lobby. Okay, so we're going to iterate through all the children of the lobby and figure out which of them are the spawn locations, and then put them in this list. So I, V in pairs. Game.workspace. We're gonna wait for child lobby, and then get children from the lobby. Okay. So now we're iterating through all the children in the lobby. If v and v.name. Okay, so we're going through all the children of the lobby, and if the child's name is spawn location, then we insert this object that we found into our list of lobby spawns. Okay, so we've just populated this list of lobby spawns. Now we gotta teleport all players, all of the active contestants, because everybody else has already been bloxxed. Okay, so luckily we made that list of active contestants, and it still exists because it was not local. So next we're gonna iterate through them. Make sure this player exists. Maybe something happened to him. Time has passed. You never know. Okay. Player exists. We're going to want to make sure they have a character. And then we're going to want to... Let's just go through it. If player.character then. Whoops, let's change this. Okay. Local humanoid equals player character find for child humanoid. Okay. If humanoid and humanoid.health is greater than 0, then actually, what are we looking for the humanoid for? I know. Okay, so we don't even need to make sure it has health. Just if the humanoid exists, then we're going to want to unequip any tool that it has. Luckily, there's a problem. There's a function on humanoids that does exactly this. It's a solution. There's a function that allows us to unequip tools. It's called unequip tools, I think. I can't remember. Let me check. So this is how you check to make sure things exist. You go to View, and you go to Object Browser, and these are all the objects. What are we looking for? We're looking for a function on humanoid. So I type in HUM, and it brings me down to here. And purple are functions. Equip tool. Is there an unequip? I don't know my alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U. Oh, it's the last one. U. Unequip tools. Alright, so this function, I wasn't sure about the name of it, and just checking to make sure. And yes, it's called unequip tools. And I got the correct capitalization. Okay, so if they have a tool in their hand, we unequip it. And then we're going to want to check. We're going to want to remove every tool from their backpack. So local backpack is equal to player find first child. Okay, so this is their backpack, their inventory. If their backpack exists, then clear all children. Just remove everything. Alright, so if they have a tool, we unequip it and we remove everything from their backpack. Good. And, oh, we gotta actually teleport them, right. We gotta put them actually back into the lobby. So, local random spawn equals lobby spawns random 1 comma number of lobby spawns. Doop. Okay, so we found a random spawn that we're going to be teleporting the player to, and now we do that. So, like I said earlier, there are different ways to move a character. For this method, we're going to be moving the character. So I'm moving a model. I'm using move to, which is a function on models, and you just give it a position, and it goes to that position, but it will stack it. Like C-frames, it will put you inside of something. So it'll put you inside of a wall if you tell it to. It'll put you inside the floor if you tell it to. That's why I had to make it go 3 above the floor. So here, if you use move to, what it actually does is it won't put you inside of something. It won't teleport an object inside of another part. It will make sure it goes on top, and it will put it in the highest or the next space that it can, and it just keeps going up until it finds a spot to place your character. So move to random spawn dot position. So we just tell it to move to this location, and so because we don't know if there's enough spawns. Are there enough spawns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Okay, so there's 8 spawn locations. We're expecting 10 people in our game. So if we were to try to teleport people here, they'd get stuck inside of each other. And by using move to, they'll stack on top of each other, which is what we want. If you want them to teleport inside of each other, then do setting their C-frame, like we did up there when teleporting them onto the map. Okay, that is how you put them back into the lobby and remove all of their tools. Cool. Okay, and then we want to do, you know what? That's great. We just got the whole game script running. That's the general core mechanics of our game. Done. Good job. That's it for this lesson. Be sure to check out the next video in the series. I'm Stickmasterluke, and remember, you make the game.